go. Boom. Bubbling squeaks.
Right. Oops. I'm going to do this today without any makeup, so I hope that everybody who's watching us.
Today only. It's a collector's edition. We're going to sell the NFT of this later, so be ready to bid on it. All right, I'm ready.
Okay. Here, let me switch the thing to the thing.
Okay. Ooh. And hello to the Cajun Navy.
Okay, ready?
Ready.
Here we go. It is the Brad and Britt cast. Welcome along here, 1:30 hour live on Facebook and other platforms of your choice. Thank you. And then in podcast form, right? I think I got that right. Even if I didn't,
right.
I just say the same damn thing every day. Who cares? It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's how we do things. All right. Well, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I want to start with some good news.
What's that?
Some really good news. Good news is that now we don't have to spend any more money rebuilding Afghanistan, and we can use it all to rebuild Louisiana, Mississippi. See, you take money from here and you put it there.
Is that how that works? So it's a zero-sum game. That's what it is. Yeah.
That's how it's going to be. Obviously, I josh, but I'm just trying. I'm trying to keep this all in perspective as it happens, and I'm already dreading us because this podcast is all about. Well, it's all about us.
Of course, it is.
We are the podcast, but I dread all of the where were you on September 11th. You know what? Guess what? Everybody was somewhere. We were all somewhere. All right.
But it is one. As you go through the days, that is one of the days you always remember where you were. You don't always remember where you were.
So what? Hey, guess what, Britt? I'm gonna start this and end this right now for myself. You ready?
Yeah, only for you.
You know where I was. You know where I was when I found.
You were in a hotel room in Charlotte.
No, I was right here where I am at this moment, in this same position, in this same chair, at this same desk, in the same house.
Because you have a boring story. No one else is. Because you have a boring story. No one else is allowed to have a story.
I think I've got the most irrelevant, who cares story. It's no different than if I was in a car at the time or I was watching The Price is Right at the time. It just, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter unless you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then you're dead.
I was in a radio studio, and they loved me, and then a year and a half, they fired me, and everybody forgot that I was ever in that studio telling me.
That's it.
So that's what happened on 9/11.
So you're as much a victim of Bin Laden.
Yes, I am.
Holy shit.
Oh, let's talk about.
All right.
Let's talk about some other things.
I would like to do a. I told everyone so, and I was the only one who said this the first minute I heard about it on this podcast, and I'm sure I wrote some. The very minute that they canned Mike Richards as the host of Jeopardy, the very second I said, well, there's no fucking way he can be the executive producer.
It's fine. It's not a problem.
They voted him off the island at the staff meeting. They said, you can't be the host anymore because you suck, right? And the press coverage, and we can do media criticism here. They took at face value the statement that came out of Sony that said, well, he will continue on as executive producer. And I said that minute, there's no way. And I didn't read any skeptical coverage of that moment the way I did it. I'm not any smarter than anybody else. You know me. I'm really not.
Right.
But God, could you just not take everything that they spoon feed you from the PR department, especially in a crisis where they're trying to lie and they're trying to cover up? Yeah.
But also, why isn't Sony? Why didn't Sony just say he's not going to be? And why did they have to not? Why did they rip the Band-Aid halfway off? Why didn't you just do the whole thing at once?
Britt, we've worked with the greats, the near greats, the idiots, the consultants, and the rest. And I'm just guessing, and this would be the worst consultant advice that would ever have been given if this is what was given to them. And they actually went for it. That don't fire him from both positions at once. And by the way, this covers his work at Wheel of Fortune too, because I guess he was executive producer there. He was that good. Yeah. They couldn't have two different people. He was that good. But they thought, well, if we do this more gradually, no one will notice. Can you imagine them saying that at a meeting? I can say that. Yeah.
Guys, let's float what we're going to do is float a trial balloon, and we'll just fire him from the one job and see if we can keep him in the one that's really important to us.
Right, because nobody notices who the host is on TV every night. They really do care about executive producer, who also, I guess the name for that now is showrunner. You run the show.
And then a week later, it was like, oh, we're going to have to fire him from everything. So I'm sorry, Mike. We're going to have to clean out your desk. We're going to have to take back your pass. The security guard will escort you to the parking lot and show you out.
Right. And by the way, I've one more little thing on Jeopardy, and then we can move on, because this.
You do know when our buddy JT was fired from Rock 92, they did wait for him to get out of the gate and take away his little doohickey that opened up the parking gate thing. You do know that they did that.
Oh well, Britt, I think we probably could write a book. A lot of people could write a book on the undignified, insulting ways that people get fucked. But there's one little sidelight, and this was from yesterday. Before Tuesday's, Richards is completely out on the sidewalk with the cardboard box officially. That Ken Jennings fucked up too and got caught and got nailed.
For what?
And here's the tweet. You ready? Here's the tweet from 2014, in case you haven't seen this. He threw out that famous joke, one which I can tell you I know I have never told and I've never thought of. I'm reading this kind of for the first time. I read it, 20 minutes ago, where he tweeted out, "There's nothing sadder than a hot person in a wheelchair."
Okay. Yeah, you can't polish that turd. That's going to be a problem.
So that's the word that's what did him in. I don't know what to say.
Well, you can't. I mean, there's no way. Hey Ken, can you explain the joke? Because if you're, there's just no, there's nothing.
Well, there's not a question of explaining the joke. You either have to.
What do you think?
Hang on. No, you either have to put everything that everyone has done that's stupid, that's insensitive, that's obnoxious, that's misogynistic, all those, you either have to decide that what someone did in their past that does not reflect on who they are now is the biggest thing ever, and he should not, you know what, he shouldn't even be able to work at McDonald's when you think about it, don't you think? See, because that's where you go with this. If everybody's social media,
oh yeah, there's a record of
exposure
everything
going back decades is what is going to do them in on things, because
there's a record of everything.
You know about Ken Jennings, he's a good guy, and the rest of it, and you know, for all I know, if Mitt Romney had Twitter for the last 30 years, Mitt Romney, Mormon pants, all that shit, all that crap, he probably tells the filthiest jokes in the world, but we just don't know about it. We don't know about it.
You have no idea.
But I guess this is, I am so glad that my kids are older now and have gotten past getting employment, getting into school, and doing all those things without it ever having to be a situation where the admissions officer or the person that would be hiring them does a deep dive into something that they wrote about something at some
we have
I'm
this
so
tweet.
glad of that.
We found this tweet from your junior year. It seems rather misogynistic. We'd like to have you in the office to try to have some sensitivity explained to you. Yeah, that would be really tough.
Yeah.
That would, you know, somebody asked a friend of mine the other day, said, well, ask him why he left radio. And I said, well, I was asked to leave. So that's the story. I was very aggressively asked to leave. So yeah, there's probably a tweet back there that's keeping me from being employed in the ever burgeoning, growing radio.
Hey,
field.
I got it. That's it. Let's go with that story, Britt.
Yeah, that's the one. That's probably what it is.
We'd be rocking our asses off at about $750,000 a year each on 500 stations if it wasn't for that tweet you sent in 2006 and the one I sent in 2011.
I was
there just is.
I wasn't even on Facebook in 2006, but still, yeah, let's go with
doesn't matter. Remember that thing you sent about that thing?
Oh,
it was terrible. It was inexcusable.
I tried to erase it immediately, and I was wrong. Maybe this one is too stupid to talk about. A lot of people pressuring Kevin McCarthy to go ahead and try to start impeachment proceedings against Joe Biden when it comes to Afghanistan. Many of you have read over the past 24 hours, the last troop is out. We are finally done with America's longest war, and now Mr. Biden has to face impeachment on his problems with Afghanistan. Is this too stupid to talk about, Brad?
Well, it's certainly too stupid to talk about in terms of the technicalities of it, because Kevin McCarthy is the minority leader of the House. He has no power. He can't do anything. They're not going to bring impeachment proceedings against Joe Biden because he's in the minority and the Democrats would never vote for it. So again, it is too stupid to talk about. Now, if in 2022 things change and they get control and they want to go there with this, I guess there's going to be no stopping them, because you and or I would be really stupid to think, oh, why would they do that? There's just no, come on, the country already went through impeachment. Come on, they would never do that. That would, right? But Kevin McCarthy's probably so stupid. This is how stupid I think he might be. He might think that because he's from California, where if they recall Gavin Newsom, the Democratic governor, the next governor is going to be a Republican automatically because of the way they've set up the vote. And McCarthy may be so stupid as to think that, oh, let's just say 2 years from now, and you're well into the third year of Joe Biden's presidency, and the Republicans control the House, and Kevin McCarthy's the majority leader. Kevin McCarthy might be so stupid as to think that if they can impeach Joe Biden in the House and convict him in the Senate, which they have to control, then automatically a Republican becomes president, or even worse, Donald Trump becomes the president again. Will you swear on a stack of Bibles that you think it's not possible that Kevin McCarthy is that stupid?
No, I would never in a million years take that bet. Forget it. And I'm not a good gambler, but I'm smart enough not to take that bet.
Right.
Never. So yeah, I think there's going to be, and the reason they would do it is because they have to. If the Republicans take control, but they just have to. They have to do the stupidest thing to continue the narrative. There's nothing else that they have. They don't have any great governing ideas. They don't have any wonderful changes they want to make to America other than to lock down ovaries and make English the official language and just play the hits.
But hang, just think of the spinning and the gaslighting and the non-logic logic that would really be behind something like this. Assuming, in the next year and a half or so that Joe Biden doesn't try to fix an election, destroy an opponent by using a foreign government to attack the family member of a would-be opponent or something equivalent to what Trump did, for which he should have been convicted and thrown out of the presidency, not once, but twice. Mm-hmm. But assuming that Joe Biden doesn't even come close to anything like that, and he hasn't, and he won't, the reasons are outgrowths of what you were just saying. One, they have to show that there is strength. There is strength, and Donald Trump's impeachments must be avenged. And the only way you avenge in a war is to shoot back harder with more ammunition. And they would feel that they were fulfilling that edict from God by trying to impeach Joe Biden, no matter what he has done. And if they really think that Joe Biden should be impeached because of decisions he has made in the last couple of months regarding Afghanistan, that's an impeachable offense, then you know what? Have at it. Just have at it. And it's, if you're trying to destroy the country, if you're trying to wreck everything, you're on your way. That's what they would be doing.
But that's the Republican Party. And a lot smarter people than me have said that it's really about 3 words for the Republican Party: owning the libs. That's all they do. I mean, there's no policy. There's no infrastructure. Tax cuts, of course, for rich people, always on the agenda and always a great idea. Throwing Bibles in everybody's face, all of that shit. But none of that matters. The most important thing is to own the libs at all costs, no matter how stupid you look.
Right. And as we continue this discussion of a thing that is too stupid to talk about, continuing to talk about it.
Right.
The Constitution talks about impeachment and uses the famous phrase high crimes and misdemeanors.
Right.
And what Trump did and was impeached for 2 different times, I believe, fully fit the concept of a high crime and or misdemeanor, in that first he enlisted a foreign government to interfere in our election. We're talking about the Ukrainian president and the rest of that. And by the way, we're just going to, for the sake of the argument, we're going to forget the Mueller report. We're going to forget all of what was okay. So we'll just we'll give Trump a mulligan on that one, right?
Sure.
No collusion. So for that, he committed a high crime. And then he committed an even higher crime, hardly a misdemeanor, in helping to plan the overthrow of the United States government, the one that he was still the president of, but could not accept the defeat at the polls that was dealt him by the voters. Also, an impeachable offense. Now, a judgment call by a commander-in-chief on what to do in foreign policy is neither a high crime nor a misdemeanor, unless you're 8 to 11 on the Fox News channel. I understand that. Getting out of bed in Delaware and getting on a train is a high crime and misdemeanor. I get that. I understand that, and we cannot even begin to imagine the distortions and the piling up of bullshit that would supposedly justify some kind of impeachment move against Joe Biden. It's just unending. And before we started in the noon hour, my clicker, it does stop on Fox on the way through the news channels for a couple seconds, each time.
Yeah.
And I screen grabbed it. This would be at 12:06 p.m. It's on my Facebook page, and it's a frozen shot of the anchor Harris Faulkner, and next to her, a bunch of people sleeping on the ground that appears to be either New Orleans or Kabul. I can't tell, but it's just people laying there. But the banner at the bottom of the news under breaking news says, Biden breaks promise to evacuate every American. Biden breaks promise to evacuate every American. To me, there's the predicate for everything that they're going to be saying over the next year into the 2022 election and then leading up to 2024, which is ready, get ready, sit down. Joe Biden's a liar and he breaks his promises. He promised to get everybody out. And
well, look, let me count the ways he broke his promise on getting people vaccinated. Right?
It's a broader one than that. Remember, he promised to quote end the pandemic, and he didn't do it. Now, of course, to no small reason why that has not happened is because of the aggressive undermining of the national attempt to do that. And again, we don't want to bring that up because that's not important. The fact is, Joey promised, and he didn't do it. It doesn't matter.
You remember that time that Obama promised to fix racial problems in America, and he didn't do it? Do you remember that time that Obama did that? Why did they're just a bunch of liars?
Britt, right. Remember, it's not just he broke his promise; he lied. In other words, Joe Biden knew that when he said, "I'm going to end this pandemic as a candidate by ramping up the vaccine distribution," not only did he know he wasn't going to end it, he lied, and he knew that by the fall of 2021 things will get worse. That an offshoot of the original virus would be called the Delta virus, and it would be much worse. And he knew that, and he lied about it. That's what they're going to say. They're going to give equivalence to Joe Biden having knowledge ahead of time that we would be where we are now, equivalent to what Trump knew back in January and February of 2020, when he did know and was warned that winter was coming, figuratively and literally. But that is their playbook, and it's in one little screen grab there. And by the way, remember, if Joe Biden had last week, after the bombing and the murder of a couple hundred people, including 13 Americans, if Joe Biden had said, you know what, situation has changed and we're not going to be out by September 1st because we can't get every last person out, and we promised, and we leave no American, but no soldier left behind, all the shit you see in movies, which, by the way, is not true. We've left behind people in every war in the history of the world. It just happens. Okay. But, we got 123,000 people out, which dwarfs any evacuation in the history of the world. There's no elegant way to lose a war. It always sucks. It always sucks. But if Biden had changed his mind, that very same banner would be saying what? Joe Biden lied about ending American involvement in Afghanistan on August 31st, right? So now that's the game they're playing. And, your job and my job and everybody's job who is not a mind-numbed robot, one of Russia's favorite terms, which, of course, was completely accurate because that's what it's turned out we have in this country. Millions and millions of them.
Rush is dead. Phil Valentine is dead. I wish I was dead.
Right. Thank you, Charles McCord. But if that had happened, that's where we would be. They would be turning on him from the other direction. And our job is to just, fight the noise, understand the truth, look at the facts, and have more than a 12-hour view ahead of history. That it isn't what is going to be on tonight's news or tomorrow morning's newspaper or in a magazine at the end of the week, or however you get your news. It isn't about that. And it's the president's job to think that way. And if you think that Joe Biden has done what he's done because he's senile, he doesn't know what's going on, he's stupid, he's completely out of it and has bad. Okay, make that, but it won't be
narrative.
because he was afraid to make the tough call. He's made the tough call. The easy call this week would have been to stay there, right?
Well, and the Lindsey Graham. Again, it's the Vietnam problem as well. If we just would put 5,000 more troops, if we just would dedicate $1 trillion more dollars, if we just would bomb a little more, that's always the case, and we never seem to learn from that. This is far from scientific. It's somewhat anecdotal. The New York Times highlighting this story about Hacienda Heights in LA County, which is hardly representative of America, but maybe much more than we think. Democrats slightly outnumber Republicans in this district, and there is almost universal agreement that after a 2 decades war, President Biden was right to pull American troops out of Afghanistan. This is one voter, Patrick Wang. Again, I understand this is anecdotal. He is a 65-year-old independent. He has voted for both Republicans and Democrats. He says when you have no good choice, you still have to pick one. They had plenty of time to prepare to get everybody out, and they totally messed it up. But I don't blame President Biden for everything. This came after many, many presidents made mistakes. And I think that is going to be what rules the day for most people going forward when they think of Afghanistan.
Right. And, of course, in the last week, we've completely lost the focus on the legislation that's in Washington that really will change lives, has certainly the potential to. It also has the ability to keep your car from having to go get new tires and shock absorbers if the roads get fixed to a decent degree because of the $1 trillion original infrastructure bill, and then there's the bigger one after that. But you'll notice, that's been completely sidelined because of what's happened in Afghanistan. And if those go through, or one goes through and the other goes through halfway, whatever happens, then Afghanistan will start to fade into the rearview mirror. It will. It will happen. It has to happen. Hey, 9/11 faded into the rearview mirror.
It did.
And I'm just trying to think, because we're all old enough that we were adults when 9/11 happened. And even my kids, they're not too young. Well, one was born in 92, so she was 9, and my son was 11. So they're significant. They're older than I was when John F. Kennedy got assassinated. And so this is something that they've lived through. But boy, you start to get much younger than them. Then everybody, I'd say the number is what 20, 23. If you were 3 or under on that day, you have no memory really. You were a baby. You have to be 4 or 5 at least.
And this is the first time. This is the first time in your lifetime, if you're that young, that you haven't known America being at war. I mean, today you're waking up in an America that is not actively at war, and that's the first time in a long time.
That's a wonky view, and here's why. Because if you would have asked Americans in general walking down the street for about the last 15 years, they didn't think America was at war.
Isn't that the problem? Isn't that the problem?
Well, that is the problem. So children growing up now, unless they're really engaged, yesterday is not going to be any kind of memorable day. The difference now, and I was looking up what happened on the days after October 23rd, 1993, when the Marine barracks was blown up in Lebanon, and Reagan was the president, and those were tough days, and he made typical well-written Ronald Reagan speeches and did some consoling of the families, and we carried on. But that's not how we are now, is it, Britt? It doesn't work that way now, does it?
Well, there was no Twitter. There was no Twitter. There was no Facebook. There was one 24-hour news network.
In '93, there was no Hannity. Okay,
right. That's absolutely correct.
And right, the difference now is that Joe Biden's getting pasted by some of the parents and relatives of some of the Marines and the other soldiers that were killed in Afghanistan last
Now, wait a minute.
week
I
because
do have to
they
stop you
thought
there. I do have to stop you there. And we got to play the turnaround game. If a similar thing was being happened to the families going on television and attacking Donald Trump in a similar situation, wouldn't those people every traffic ticket, every time they picked a booger, wouldn't that be strewn across social media and on Fox News and on Hannity? Wouldn't they be attacked endlessly and people be in front of their houses?
Right. Well, let's get the predicate out before you answer.
Sorry.
And make the whataboutism here.
Yes.
We have a couple of the fathers who went on Hannity's show on Monday night, and certainly were egged on and booked by Fox on purpose as part of the how can we take down Biden? And their charge is that Biden was an oaf in the way he was speaking to them, and he was off base, and he wasn't looking them straight in the eye, and looked at his watch, all this other shit. Now, I will say this in defense of that overall view on Joe Biden, because he has gotten as much mileage out of the consoler in chief, the most understanding person in the history of the world, because he's had personal loss in his life, than anybody ever has. Here's the problem. And this is a Joe Biden problem. This doesn't mean he's not fit to be president. This doesn't mean he doesn't have the mental faculties to be president. Doesn't mean he can't make decisions as president. But because you're exposed all the time, because every word that you say to anybody, whether it's actually recorded or whether you get someone who will give a version of what was said in these cases, because Joe Biden is 78, there is no way you can escape the fact that people who are 78, because I feel myself doing it, we do it on this Brad and Britt cast. We do tell some of the same stories that we've told already. But when you're president, you got to have some new material a lot of the time. You cannot, and we used to make fun of Trump because he only had about 8 things at every speech. It was the same shit, same cadence, same material. And just pardon me for saying this, but if I hear Joe Biden say, or if it's reported that he has said in any kind of difficult death situation where somebody loses someone, that it puts a black hole in your heart, like pull it out of your chest. If I hear him say that one more time, I'm going to pull my own heart out of my own chest. You can't keep saying that every time to every person. You really, really can't. And I think he did make a mistake in equating the death of his son, Beau Biden, to cancer after he had served in Iraq, to the deaths last week of these soldiers, these Marines. That's a stretch. And I don't know if you have anybody in your life or in your family. I have at least one. I won't name this person, but they're the kind of person that no matter what story you tell them, they'll top you. It does not matter. And then they will use whatever example that they're going to give to not belittle you, but to make sure that you realize whatever you're going through isn't nearly as bad as what I went through.
It's a one-up. You got a one-upper there.
Right. And there's a fine line between empathy and having to put your example out there every goddamn, and because we know that is Joe Biden. We understand that. And he did not have to prove to these people, any of them, face to face, that he's been through personal hell, that he's lost 2 children and a wife under horrible circumstances, equal to loss in a war, but it's still different considering he's the president of the United States at this moment, and he's the commander in chief, and he made the call. So I think he is open to criticism on that. But then to take it to the next level and throw these guys on TV and use them
Well, look,
And
these
the
people have the
pushback
right
is,
to say.
what about Mr. Khan? What about that guy that they used at the
Exactly.
Democratic Convention? What about that? Well, guess what?
These
did
guys
lose
have
his
the
son
right to say.
in-
These
in-
guys have the right to say what they want to say. And again, Khizr Khan was slammed and dragged through the mud and called everything but a child of God. And that's what they do. That's not what we do. And I hope these guys are able to say what they need to do. And they're grieving right now. And I support their freedom of speech to say whatever they need to say. Now, the fact that Sean Hannity and Fox News is running up and down the field with it is kind of bullshit. And speaking of bullshit, New York Post, Gold Star families have blasted Biden for checking his watch during the ceremony for the fallen. There is the well-intentioned and always fair New York Post once again putting out the bullshit that they've been putting out for what? More than 200 years, I believe, Brad.
Hey, Britt, I completely agree with you, except there's just one little thing. How could you be a national politician at the level of President of the United States or even below that and realize that at this point, you never look at your watch during a public you don't do it, Britt. You don't do it. You're handing them the sword. It's not, you can't win that one. You can't win that any more than, remember, it's possible. I don't think it's the only thing, but it was very, how should we say, unhelpful that George H.W. Bush looked at his watch during that debate with Bill Clinton. And I don't want to say he never recovered from it. But again, compared to that, this is 100 times worse because of where it was and when it was. That was just a fucking debate. Who cares? There was no life or death on the line. It makes it look, you have to then explain, I didn't mean that I was looking at my watch because I was bored, I was tired, I had a meeting 3 hours from now. You can't talk your way out of it. Don't do shit that you have to try to talk your way out of, and that you're going to put the press secretary in the position of defending. Don't do it.
And don't read the New York Post. Don't like or read or share the New York Post. We're moving on. We're moving on. Is this too stupid to talk about? It's really, is he too stupid to talk about? Yeah. Madison Cawthorn from Western North Carolina promoting false election claims, warning of bloodshed if fraud occurs in the future. This was in remarks that he made a couple of days ago to the Macon County, North Carolina Republican Party meeting. Macon County, if I can explain to you, if you ever saw the Harrison Ford film The Fugitive, based on the old television show, did you ever see the Harrison Ford film?
See, I thought it was only Macon County in Georgia because of the movie Macon County. Directed by Max Baer Jr., I do believe.
For those of you that saw The Fugitive with Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford, parts of that film were filmed in Macon County and Highlands, particularly when the fugitive himself, Richard Kimball, dives over those falls. That's part of what was filmed there. He says various things. Madison Cawthorn going a step further, really, than a lot of Republicans in this state, saying that our Governor Roy Cooper did not even defeat Dan Forrest in the election, which most of us think that Roy Cooper won that election by 250,000 votes, Brad. We're wrong about that. He made those statements in front of a bunch of Republicans in Macon County, among other things.
I almost want to say, well, why not? Why would you expect even any less from this guy until he gets taken out electorally?
Well, what would our friend Mike Richards say about Madison Cawthorn? Just curious.
He's not that cute.
No, he's not. He also says that he made some postulation about breaking out the quote unquote political prisoners who have been detained in the wake of 1/6, the January 6th insurrection. Of course, I'm sure he was just really laughing and making a hilarious joke because his sense of humor is really advanced. If you go to, by the way, you can go to the Macon County GOP's website right now, and they're having a raffle for a fantastic shotgun with a tactical thing on it that he signed. So if you'd like to go ahead and throw in a couple of bucks there and try to win that weapon, you could do that if you wanted to right now.
All right. Well, he will get his comeuppance. I don't know when, I don't know how, but
maybe,
right now,
maybe not in this life, possibly not in this life.
Who knows? All right. I'll give you a choice of three here. Cam canned, another one bites the dust, or new Taliban boss, same as the old Taliban boss.
As we are running low on time, let's finish our discussion today with Cam Newton. Now, there it is. Again, another New York Post headline. Patriots shockingly release Cam Newton, making Mac Jones the starter. Mac Jones is their first-round draft pick out of the University of Alabama. Was it a shock that the Patriots released Cam Newton, their former NFL MVP quarterback, Brad?
Well, no, and I believe that Skip and Shannon on Fox Sports this morning both agreed, and I agree with them, because the smoke signals were out.
Of course,
that his being a whack job anti-vaxxer was just not going to stand. It was not going to stand, and they had to get rid of him. And now, to his credit, he did come out, I think, late in the morning and say, "Don't feel sorry for me. Do not feel sorry for me, Cam Newton." I mean, he didn't put on a pity party for himself. And I read another story, I think on Bleacher, one of those, that apparently, and I hate to say this, but that he was playing his music on the sidelines, and they had to say, Cam, get back in, during practice. Things just not fully engaged, I guess, would be the description there. And but then you add in anti-vax, and that's not what you call a good building block for a cohesive team effort to have a quarterback say, "I'm not getting vaccinated."
Well, you don't give the coach a reason.
There's nothing else to say
when you're making millions of dollars. Yeah. And I think in this case, he had a $3.5 million contract. And when you're making, you don't give the coach a reason to let you go. And he gave them every reason to say, okay, we can easily get rid of this guy. We have a rookie. He's probably going to get beat up. We're not going to win a lot of games, but at least this guy is going to be ready to go. He's going to be vaccinated. And if he breaks his leg in the first game, he breaks his leg, but at least he was ready to rock and roll and committed to the team. The question becomes Brad, is Cam Newton's career in the NFL done, finished, ended?
No.
So where is his landing spot? This is the great speculation.
I just stuck the name in. You ready? Here's the first headline. Should there be a Rivera-Newton reunion in Washington?
That's logical to me. The Indianapolis Colts seems like a situation. The backup situation in Dallas is not all that great, and I think
right. So I mean, he's not done. He's not done, but he's not.
But there's one team. There's one team that loves to own the libs.
Dallas.
It was the team that signed Tim Tebow to a contract and then accidentally cut him the first time they could. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Shahid Khan loves to own the libs, and they want to just shove this up your butt. Here's an anti-vax guy. We're going to go ahead and we're going to sign him, and we're going to show you guys.
I know we're getting down in the sports weeds here, but I don't see a Urban Meyer Cam Newton combination as being one made in heaven.
Please let that happen. Please, God, let that happen.
Guessing.
My only hope is that Urban Meyer's tenure with the Jacksonville Jaguars is as successful as Nick Saban's was with the Miami Dolphins. That is my hope and my prayer as we go forward. And if Cam Newton is going to be the backup to the prodigy, Trevor Lawrence, wow, what a shit show. I could watch that all season long. That's going to be way better than Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks has been boring as shit. The Dallas Cowboys are attempting to bore us so that they'll never be picked again to go on that stupid show.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
All right. Can we do one last nugget here? We have another one bites the dust. We have a former CIA officer who claimed the first person in the world to call COVID-19 a hoax. He's now dead. He was in the hospital for a month. His name is Robert David Steele. He was in the Marines. He was a big QAnon guy. He was a Mr. Conspiracy Theory, including one of the original ones that COVID-19 was a hoax. Big anti-vax campaign supporter, and he is dead. D-E-A-D, as dead as the pen I'm holding. in my hand and dropping there. So
dead.
another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. All right. And you know what? This podcast is going to bite the dust for the day. See you tomorrow.
Back tomorrow.